Welcome to Stellaris, a game about discovering the galaxy and building an empire. You may have just picked up the game or you're returning from somewhere else. There is always something new to learn. Today we're going to be talking about the very basics of the game, and for the sake of that I've turned off all the expansions. This will be purely a vanilla experience. So let's start off here. Today we're going to be covering such things as the first 5 years of your gameplay, how things work, how things flow, and how to do the basics, as the video already implies. Now this will be a continuing series. We'll be doing more videos like this slowly over time so that we can learn more and more things about the game. But for today, as I said, the basics. To start things off within the game, we are on our standard menu screen and we're going to just go ahead and do a new game. If you are new to the series, you could always try out the quick start with the United Nations of Earth. However, the tutorial can be a bit of a mess. You can also take the option of creating a new empire. However, for the sake of today, I would recommend that for now, we just go ahead and go with the United Nations of Earth. However, not as the quick start, but as the standard start here. As we start off, there is this initial screen where we can see the basic parameters of our species and empire. What kind of traits we have as a species, what kind of empire we have, and also the things that we believe in as a species. Continental world, as in the type of planet that we play on, is also pretty darn important for the expansion phase of our empire, but it's not necessarily the most critical thing. There is also a origin, which is essentially our background, and aside from that, we can go in and start our gameplay. Following that, there is the game detail screen. If you are a new player, I would highly recommend turning off AI starts, at least advanced AI starts. These are special empires that are fairly far ahead of you at the start of the game, and they could take you over relatively easily. If you're looking for a challenge, however, turning them on could be a fun thing. If you're also learning just for the first time, I would also recommend turning down the tech tradition cost to 0.5 and maybe increase the habitable worlds to make the overall process of learning the game a little bit easier. It's not going to be easy the first time around and you will most likely lose and restart, but that is fine. It is all part of the learning process. Everything else is all gravy. Let's go in, let's dive in, and let's play some Stellaris. After we hit the play button, we will be presented with a similar screen as we had before. It's essentially our overview of our empire and a little bit of fluff text of what is going on. And we can immediately go ahead and hit the begin button. And as you can see, immediately we will go towards our solar system, where we can go around using the WASD keys to essentially move our stuff around. Sadly, there is currently no rebinding of our controls, which is rather unfortunate. So sadly, for now, you will actually have to use the mouse cursor or the WASD keys to move around. And as you can see, immediately the game tells us to, hey, pay attention, there's a bunch of things going on. And these are the science items. We will immediately need to start selecting science for our game and how we would want to continue developing in a certain direction. We have our physics, our society, as well as our engineering. And if we click on one of these, it will bring up a menu. What you select is not necessarily all that important. However, in this particular case, I would highly recommend going for infrastructure as well as science. So in this particular case, more energy, which is one of the resources, more science from society, which is also important, and in this particular case for engineering, also science. A lot of the other stuff that we just saw was related around ships, as well as some more advanced infrastructure related items, but you can never really go wrong with going for science and growing yourself. It's a compound system. Every single bonus will add up to other bonuses slowly over time. After that, we can close this screen and immediately we will see that there is an outliner on the side of the screen here. We can close and open this with this handy dandy button up here. Now, the first thing that we want to do is take a look at what is available here. We have our planets, our shipyards, our fleets, and most importantly for right now, our civilian ships. There is the construction ship and the most important one here, the science ship. At the start of the game, the science ship is going to be the core of our gameplay. It's going to do a lot of heavy lifting for when it comes to discovering the galaxy and see what's going on around us. And it also has this little menu around here that is not really all that important at the moment. All you need to know is that this button right here, Survey, exists and is important. I would also like to point out that we cannot do anything with the science ship if we do not have a scientist attached to it. So always make sure that you have a scientist applied to your science ships. Now next up we can hit this button or hit the M button, which will also move back and forth, and we end up in the map screen. Now this is essentially an overview of the galaxy, and you will be spending a significant amount of time on this particular screen as you are dealing with the logistics and the internal workings of your empire. But that is all for later. It's not really important right now. First of all, there's the science ship. As I mentioned, we already have it selected, and we can go ahead and hit the survey button. Now, with the survey button selected, we can now go ahead and click on a system where nearby, which is connected with these handy dandy little lanes, and it will go out and start surveying that particular system to see if there's anything interesting over there. However, you don't necessarily want to always go ahead and manually click to one system to the next, to the next, to the next, when your science ship is done on each individual system. Therefore, what you can do is you can hit the shift key whilst you're holding on the survey button and essentially queue up a bunch of survey options for your science ship. For those of you who have played strategy games in the past, this could come across as something that is extremely familiar. However, it's always good to learn, and in this particular case, that it is something that you can do, because it's not really signal posted anywhere. Cool, we have our science ship set up. It is surveying all of these systems. That's going to take a little while. It's time for us to take a look to the next side of things, and that is our homeworld, Earth. Earth in the 2200s, because that is the start date of the game. And immediately as we bring up the screen, we will see that we have our homeworld here with a whole bunch of things applied to it. And cool enough, you can go to and essentially take a look at the planet itself. Now, within this screen is all the stuff that you need to know when it comes to managing your planet. And there's a bunch of different values that you need to know, such as, for instance, what kind of resources they are producing down there. Energy, minerals, food, science, and a whole slew of other things. And those are represented in the top of the screen here with our resources. There is energy, which is essentially anything that you pay for, also goods on, say, a market. Minerals, which basically allows you to build buildings on the planet. You can see the buildings down here. Food, which essentially allows you to feed your population. It's very important that you do, otherwise they will revolt. Consumer goods, which are things like microwaves and hair dryers that the population needs in order to function. Alloys, which you use to build your ships, but more importantly at the start of the game, build outposts for your empire to expand into. Influence, which is more of a diplomatic resource that you can use on expanding your empire, but also interacting with other species. Unity, which resembles something along the lines of the thought and philosophy behind your species, and you can use this to increase your abilities as an empire on a more sociological level. And finally, science, strategic resources, etc. Strategic resources are not important for now. We will touch upon those at a later point. And now, it's actually time to start unpausing the game. Yeah, wow, we are actually gotten to that point now. We can start going ahead with normal speed, which by itself is not really all that fast. And using the plus button or on the keyboard or up here next to the speed icon, we can go ahead and make the game run faster. At fastest, it will basically run as fast as your game can handle it, or at least your CPU. Stellaris is very CPU bound, so do be aware of that. So, our science ship has arrived in this solar system, and it is now surveying all of these planets. What a happy fun time, because there is another continental world nearby. Remember on the setup screen that we had a continental preference? Well, it looks like we've got ourselves a second world that we can colonize. And in addition, we have something very important that has just come available. Remember when I was talking about Unity, a resource that we can spend on philosophy, etc., well, we can unlock one of these things, and that is a tradition. Traditions come in all sorts of flavors, and if we go into the select option here, we will see that there's a bunch of different categories that you can pick. I would highly recommend for you to go and look through all of these. There's things around firepower, there's things about expansion, being able to be adaptive to other areas in space, or if you want to do trade, that sort of things. However, for right now, I would highly recommend going into Discovery. Discovery is considered to be one of the best starter options within the game for a variety of reasons. Essentially, it allows your science ships to research faster, or at least look through the stars faster. And in addition, it unlocks something. As we go into the little sidebar over here, you will notice that there is something called edicts. You can also open this up with the F7 button. Essentially, this will bring you to a special menu where there is now an option available called Map the Stars, which we have just unlocked through using Discovery. Essentially, what it does is it spends a certain amount of Unity a month and will increase survey speed on every single science ship, but most importantly, it has an increased chance to find anomalies. And anomalies are what keeps the game interesting. They are essentially little areas in space or little discoveries that you can make, and new things can come out of those. Could you maybe find some new resources, or find yourself some aliens, or who knows? There is a wide variety of events that can come up here. In the meantime, though, our science ship is on its way, and it's about to survey Sirius, which is very important, and it looks like it's found some alien life, and this is one of the events that we talked about, and this is the first time this has happened. Therefore, we get some society research out of it, which will immediately be added to the pool for technology over here. And of course, we can always find our technology by going to the little sidebar, as usual. Still though, what does this mean? It means that we need to go back into the outliner and get our construction ship ready and to move to Sirius. So we can right click on the system and then use the move to option to go over there. And we've managed to find our first anomaly. Yeah, there it is. A routine anomaly with our scientist, and will take 150 days to find out what is going on over here. Routine, our scientist is level 1. This should be relatively straightforward. The more a scientist works on things, whether or not it's science or research, the higher level it will be, and the easier time it will have with different varieties of anomalies. So let's go ahead and research that. Plus, we've managed to get a couple of more interesting in-game events, as well as our first long-term objective, where we need to find a bunch of habitable worlds. It's always a good idea to go ahead with these chains, and we'll be able to find those in the outliner on the left under the situation log. Habitable worlds is now selected, and essentially we need to find 8 habitable worlds within the galaxy in order to complete that, and we will be given a reward at the end. What an exciting time. Immediately after that, we will be presented with our first contact protocols. First contact protocols is essentially what we will do in order to deal with aliens when we find them in space. How do we present ourselves to them? What kind of relationship do we want to have with them? These are all very important factors that you need to keep in mind, but in general, I would say it is wise to be cautious because, well, sometimes it's a little bit too enthusiastic, and then the aliens can be a little bit aggressive. On the other side around, in this particular case, we cannot do it, but we could go ahead and kidnap and dissect them as an option as well. But for now, let's stay cautious and see what is going on. Whilst all of this stuff is happening, we've managed to unlock yet another tradition. In this particular case, I will personally go for To Boldly Go, as it increases our survey speed yet again, and that is very nice. Plus, in addition, we can go back to Earth because some very important stuff has happened down there. And that is that we can build ourselves a new district. Why would we want to build a district, and what is a district? Well, first of all, we have a population on our planet, and that is represented by this little icon over here with a number next to it that basically says this is your population, as well as a number of jobs that population needs to work on. We are about to run out of jobs. Jobs are generated by districts. And districts are categorized in a variety of types, and they all generate different resources, whether or not it's habitation, consumer goods and alloys, energy, minerals, or food. Plus, we can also build a couple of buildings that will allow us to further specialize our planet. Feel free to take a look at things there. Personally, in this particular case, I would like to go for some more minerals, because that is always good to have. And then after that, I will most likely build a research lab. You can go up for your own orders, and there's a bunch of different meta builds online for you to try out. Going for a district first and then a research lab may not necessarily be the most cost effective, but it's a good illustration into the system. You could also build a research lab right off the get-go. That will now start building very easily and very nice. But we forgot about something. On the Earth screen, there is a button called Features. Features are essentially things that are on the planet, such as an irrigation project, or a urban center, or a megalopolis, etc. And all of these have impact on the amount of districts that we have available. For instance, the Sahara irrigation districts adds additional agricultural districts to our planet, as you can see represented right here. However, there's also a bunch of things that we want to remove, such as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, or Industrial Wasteland. We want to get rid of these as soon as possible, but the most important one that we want to get rid of is sprawling slums. Sprawling slums will generate us a free pop, a character who can live on the planet, and population is so important, you always want to strive to get more of them. And sprawling slums is a good illustration of that, because you can very easily get more pops this way. And we're just going to go ahead and remove the rest here as well. In the meantime, it looks like our science ship is about to wrap up its research. Labor's love lost, very nice. We can get ourselves some resources here. Citizen Pop Happiness, we got a bunch of options. Feel free to pick one of these. In this particular case, it generates Citizen Pop Happiness, which is good, because the happier pops are, the more they generate, which is excellent. It's exactly what we need. Cool. With the science ship moving back and forth, it's almost done finishing the research on this solar system, and we've got our construction ship ready to go here. And there you go. The system has been fully surveyed. We select our construction ship, and now we can build a starbase. We spent some influence, which is our political resource, as well as some alloys, which is one of these, and we can go ahead and build that. In the meantime, our science ship will move on. It's got a auto setup where it will continue to go ahead and survey all of these places, and that is exactly what it needs to do. It's all hands off from there. Some more science. Pop growth speed is also always very good. By the way, if your menu keeps on popping up on the left here, there's a little lock item at the bottom of the screen you can push, and it will now be permanently in this setup, so you never have to deal with that ever again. We got ourselves a new tradition, data bank uplinks. We want to finish off one of these completely, so we can get a finisher bonus as well as an ascension perk, but we will get to that shortly. And it looks like our construction ship is done building the outposts in this system, which means that our border has in fact increased. So what we can do here now is we can go and develop this by right-clicking on the system whilst we have the construction ship selected, and build ourselves some mining stations. Right now, mining stations is probably the best thing that we can build. We don't want to build any science for now, because that costs minerals, and minerals is something that we need a lot of in the early game. If we click on top of this planet, we can go ahead and click the colonize button, and then go ahead and build something. But oh no, it looks like we do not have enough consumer goods, so we need to go and get some. But where would we get any? Well, if we click on the consumer goods icon on the top of the screen, it will open up the market. On the market, we can go ahead and buy goods that we need right now. So let's say that we need some consumer goods. We can go here and buy 50 of those for 130 energy. Again, we've got energy enough. We can easily buy that, and now we have the resources that we need. You can also use this to sell your goods. Let's say that I've got way too much food. I can go ahead and sell that, and that will go straight into my energy account. So essentially, it's a way of floating your economy. And now we can go ahead and colonize this planet. We're going to give it a cool name. And there we go. And now our science ship will leave the solar system, and a colony ship will move in and try to colonize it as soon as possible. And it looks like we're getting traditions galore. By the way, this is a compound interest system, so the more of these you unlock, the more expensive it gets. So that's something that we want to keep in the back of your head. At this point, it's all a case of going through the events, going for your decisions, and see what you can do in order to scale up your stuff. For instance, we have a single science ship out there. Wouldn't it be cool if we, I don't know, build another one? Because if we click on the shipyard down here, Sol Station, it will open up this particular screen. And we can go ahead to go down the shipyard button and build ourselves a science ship. Now, there is a colony ship being built there right now, but we want a science ship right now as well. So we can go ahead and deprioritize the colony ship. It won't lose any progress. It will just go into the mothballs for a little bit, and instead the science ship will be prioritized. And we can very quickly crank one of these out. There you go. Now, as I mentioned before, we need a leader on our assigned ship. So we can go ahead and click on the assign leader after we've selected our assigned ship, and we go into the leader screen. In this particular screen, you will be able to find every single leader that we have, as well as the recruit button, which is very important for this particular case. In this particular scenario, however, we have got a bunch of options. The game will always give us 3 options of leaders to rule, or to pick in this particular case, and we will always want to go for the best one available. We want to get a scientist that is very, very good at surveying, because it's going to go into a science ship. Therefore, the roamer trait is in fact very good. So we're going to go ahead and click on them, and once again we're going to go and hit the survey, hit the shift key, and continue onwards there. Very nice. So there you have it. Our colony is going to get built very soon. Only 100 days away when we have gotten ourselves some more science. Always research speed, always a good idea. As well as powered exoskeletons, because that will lead us to robots, which we can add to our population. More stuff is being found out over here. Our construction ship is moving back and forth. And it looks like our colony ship is about to hit the dirt down on the planet. There it is. Sirius 3. The first human colony is being built. A happy day for all of us. And that will be it for now. 4 years into the game. Not bad. Not bad at all. Next time, we're going to be talking about how do we develop a colony? How do we continue expanding into space? Because we don't really know all that much what's going on around us. We know there is a nebula. We know there's more stars. We know there's a whole galaxy to discover. But there's so many features that we have not covered today yet. And that's why this is the basics. You don't necessarily need to know all the ins and outs about all of these menus. We haven't covered any of those things just yet, but we will do so in the follow-up video. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel, as well as click on one of the links that we will see in front of you right now that will take you to an overview of future tutorials. I hope that you've enjoyed this, and I hope to take you onto a journey to the stars with Stellaris. And don't you worry, the game gets updated fairly frequently, so this video, sooner rather than later, is going to get outdated and we'll have to do it all over again. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you out there.